Apex signal. Deep in the void of the Cepheus Rift, the research frigate Odyssey drifted near a silent anomaly. Sensors cast a pale blue glow in the ship's lab as xenolinguist Mirra Xian listened to the endless static of space. For weeks, the crew had scoured this quiet region for any sign of the mysterious cosmic storms, but only silence had answered. Mirra's brow creased as she adjusted the frequency dials for the umpteenth time, hoping for a trace of anything unusual. "Commander," she said quietly, hand hovering over the console. "There's something. A pattern in the static." Captain Edrin Calder looked up from his console, concern flickering in his tired eyes. He was a tall man with a hawkish face framed by streaks of gray. Beside him, Lieutenant Rios frowned at Mirra's display. A signal? From where? Mirra rewound the data stream, filtering and isolating. Suddenly, the monotone hiss resolved into a slow, rhythmic pulse. It throbbed like a heartbeat, then repeated, layered with strange harmonics. The pattern was undeniably artificial, a deliberate transmission rather than random cosmic noise. Mirra's pulse quickened. "It came through this sensor," she pointed at the screen. "Originates from the Elysium Nebula, Sector 43, Gamma. But that's uncharted territory. No known ships near it." Captain Calder stiffened. The Elysium Nebula was legendary, a roiling sea of ionized gases and magnetic storms that had swallowed explorers for decades. "How old is this signal?" he asked. Mirra tapped into the data. "The encoding. It uses an ancient method, pre-standard compression, possibly millennia old." She exchanged a look with Calder. Something out there is trying to speak. The crew in the lab fell silent as the realization settled. Not all signals were warnings. Some were messages. And a message from the heart of the Elysium Nebula was a mystery begging to be solved. Outside the observation ports, the nebula's swirling violet clouds painted shifting patterns of light on the stars beyond. None of them had expected an answer in this god-forsaken region, but here it was, calling to them through the void. Calder straightened. "Set a new course. I want us moving toward that sector. Secure the lab. Restrict all comms except my override. This may be the discovery of a lifetime, or something far more dangerous." Mirra nodded and worked swiftly to comply. All around, the crew of the Odyssey felt the familiar thrill of uncovering the unknown, but beneath their excitement lay a deeper unease, as if the cold blackness of space itself had suddenly grown more watchful and bolder by sending out its first whisper. The Avaris, flagship of the Zhushan Dominion's 7th Fleet, soared toward the fringes of explored space. Commander Tarok stood on the observation deck of the golden-hulled dreadnought, arms crossed behind his back. The Zhushan were a proud reptilian people, scaled skin ranging from emerald to obsidian, bifurcated tails swaying behind them, and eyes like polished amber. Tarok himself was lean and tall, adorned in a trim black uniform that glinted with gold rank pins. Above all, he was keenly aware that any anomaly here was a threat to Dominion supremacy. The bridge hummed with activity, and the ceaseless beeping of radar monitors was the only sound beside the occasional hum of fusion engines. Tarok's amber eyes narrowed as one screen began to flash erratically. "Report," he barked. Lieutenant Crean, a Horn subordinate, tapped the console. "Sir, unknown readings in the Ophiuchus void. Sensors indicate massive subspace fluctuations, possibly an ancient probe or drift field." His voice was gravelly, betraying both excitement and fear. Tarok moved to stand before the monitor. The screen displayed a swirling constellation of spectral shapes, wormholes or distortions, twisting amid a backdrop of countless stars. "Is it localized?" he asked, claws flexing in anticipation. "Not exactly localized, Commander. The pattern is fragmented, like an echo reflecting across star systems. We cannot pinpoint a single source." Crane sounded perplexed. Tarok frowned. The Zhushan prized order and precision in battle. An erratic cosmic riddle did not sit well with him. "Start a high-resolution scan. I want every sensor on this ship tuned to the anomaly. And inform Admiral Verk of our fleet. All Zhushan fleets must monitor any signs of a similar disturbance." "Aye, sir." The lieutenant's tail flicked nervously as he activated the commands. As Avaris adjusted course to get closer, a low hum began to resonate through the hull, subtle at first, then building like distant thunder. Crew members paused in their work, heads turning to the observation deck to see the swirling objects come into sharper focus. Tarok watched as lightning-like tendrils of energy cracked across the void, weaving between stars. "What on Zhushan's scales is that?" muttered his science officer, Julek, whose scaled arms were currently busy with sensor triangulation. "The energy reading. Impossible. Those aren't natural subspace distortions. They're ordered, intelligent." Tarok's lips curled in a silent snarl as he considered the implications. An intelligent pattern in the void. It could only mean one thing. Someone or something was testing boundaries far beyond known space. A direct challenge, perhaps even a threat. If the Dominion's fleets could not respond first, another power might seize the advantage. "Steady, crew," Tarok commanded, though tension tightened the words. His heartbeat thudded against his chestplate. "Keep scanners online. Prepare the tactical team. We do not know what we are facing, but we will not be caught unprepared." As the Avaris surged toward the origin of the anomaly, Tarok finally allowed a rare flicker of concern to pass through his mind. The Zhushan had long been apex predators of the known galaxy, but what if something in the darkness had heard their storms and was now roaring back? Whatever it was, Tarok knew the answers lay further ahead, and that he would face them head-on. On the sprawling black market station of Mavora, gravity hung like a haze in the crowded corridors of the smuggler's bazaar. Sloane Kresta slinked through the throng of extraterrestrials and humans, his leather jacket brushing against buzzing neon signs. Human by birth but more rogue than citizen, Sloane was a relic of the frontier, a former reconnaissance pilot turned independent operator. His wiry frame masked quick reflexes, and a mind always on the lookout for his next advantage. Word traveled fast in places like Mavora. Whispers and rumors twisted through the bazaar like tentacles, drawn in by any promise of excitement or profit. Sloane had come to pick up a refurbished cloak drive when a shifty deal in the chips room caught his ear. A group of patrons clustered around a vid feed, eyes wide as a grainy broadcast, showed flickering images of stars and strange pulses. Someone was speaking in strange patterns, an alien tongue, or perhaps music, and the signal was bouncing across star charts. "Apex code," grunted a dwarven arms dealer. "Heard it yesterday from a drifting comm array. People almost lost their minds listening to it." He sucked on a cobalt pipe as if it gave him courage, but his eyes darted nervously at the ground traffic. "They say it's cursed." Intrigued, Sloane edged closer. On the hollow display, fractal symbols pulsed to a rhythm, too complex to be random. His technophile instincts tingled. The word apex pinged in his memory bank, an ancient myth about a civilization that had vanished eons ago. Some claimed they ascended into pure energy, others that they perished in hubris. But firsthand, this was new. "Worth anything?" he asked, rubbing a short beard. "Hell if I know," muttered the dealer. "But folks are nervous. Space aggers are breaking left and right near the Elysium Nebula. Ships killed systems." Another sip of pipe. Things a ghost haunting the void. No omen or rumor would pass by Sloane without him chasing it. If there was something wild out there, it either spelled trouble or the chance to make a fortune. He glanced at the cluster of beings on the vid holo. Humans, Orcans, Symbians, all looking astonished. A siren shriek of coincidence announced the arrival of a patron above him. The crowd parted, and before him floated a Trinos elder, skin like shifting constellations. He carried an ornate staff and wore concern in his gaze. "Disruption in the void, child of Terra," the elder intoned in a voice that rattled Sloane's bones. "A resonance across all channels. You feel it too, do you not?" Sloane didn't wait to answer. He was already walking away from the scene, nudging through throng. Not proud of being child of Terra, he wasn't, but he did feel it. The hum of station power paused. Above, an old satellite dish suddenly sputtered out static noise. Sloane's fingers itched to switch on his own sensor array. Later, aboard his stolen shuttle at Mavora's decrepit dock, Sloane tuned in hidden transponders. The symbols played, shimmering on his private console. He muttered to himself, "Well, this is something." If whispers from one station had any weight, then something was awake out there. Whether threat or opportunity, Sloane resolved to find out, for once without the need for bribes, and for his own reasons. By the time word of the anomaly spread, the halls of power in the inner worlds were already humming with unease. Screens in the High Council's crystal chamber showed real-time feeds of deep space sensor reports. Star maps dashed with unexplained energy signatures. Admiral Eris Malcator, head of the Terran Alliance Navy, steepled his fingers on the conference table, eyes narrowed. All 13 counselors and senior officers around him were equally unsettled. Unidentified distortions, spontaneous signal bursts. And now this apex frequency, Counselor Hammond said grimly. He was one of the longest-serving counselors of the Terran Senate. It was quiet on every front until yesterday. Now entire sectors are reporting equipment failures and strange transmissions. At Hammond's words, others around the table chimed in. Dr. Layla Moran, chief astrophysicist to the council, presented data on a floating hollow screen. The signal's pattern repeats every 73.2 seconds, with varying wavelengths. It's unlike any known language or code. It appears intentionally scrambled. I suspect it's a call, but to what end I cannot determine yet. A younger counselor, her dress marked the emblem of Zhushan emissaries, leaned forward. Our own readings suggest it emanates near the Elysium Nebula, she said in a crisp tone. Our fleet has already been dispatched to investigate, and any Terran or other presence is automatically logged as trespassing. If this is some alien trap, Zhushan forces will be at a disadvantage. A murmur ran through the room. On a tension line, the Terran admiral nodded. Yes, we have vessels en route to that region as well. We must approach this with caution. He gazed at the Terran Alliance representative, Ambassador Lia Zhu. Ambassador Zhu, the Outer Republic and the Meridian Coalition are also mobilizing. This anomaly appears to be affecting everyone. Lia Zhu, a tall humanoid with gold-tinted skin and eyes like fiery coals, nodded gravely. A communication that spans the void has upset cosmic stability. The Meridian Coalition's AI Council has already warned its members of possible disruptions. We convene in a joint task force if needed. Another voice interrupted, smooth and foreboding. Emerged from the shadows by the doorway stood a figure in a cobalt uniform, embroidered with the sigil of the Verax Collective. Their skin was a translucent pale blue, and as they approached, water droplets on their uniforms steamed. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced as all eyes turned. The signals align with one of the old transcendent predictions, the echo of time. It was theorized that an apex civilization, known only in myth, would one day signal their presence if they succeeded in achieving singularity. Perhaps this is it, or an omen of cosmic imbalance. The council members exchanged wary looks. Predictions or myths, apocalyptic or not, the truth mattered. Admiral Malkator settled the unease with firm resolve. We will find answers. For now, continue all precautionary scans and hold fire unless provoked. Any encounter with the signal source is authorized with restraint. The safety of our people is priority one. Outside the chamber's panoramic window, the stars glimmered as they always had, but unseen currents were shifting. The silence of space had been broken. Now, governments and fleets across the galaxy held their breath. 2 days later, the Odyssey emerged from its silent crawl near the Elysium Nebula into open space. Captain Calder stood on the bridge, watching the swirling green and purple clouds through the viewport. Beside him, Mirra Xian had deployed the language array, displaying the repeating signal pattern. They were not alone in this sector. Ships from multiple factions had arrived, each observing from a distance. The Terran Alliance frigate, Horizon, Zhushan cruiser, Avaris, and several uncharted vessels from the Meridian Coalition and a few mercenary caravels all loomed on their comm screens. Tension was high. Mirra turned to Calder. The array analysis shows sequences akin to classical vibratory geometry. It's as if the signal is speaking not just to ears, but minds. I've translated snippets, words that sound like time, awakening, dawn, but the syntax, it's beyond us. Captain Calder nodded. They say apex. Whatever it was, it's ancient. We need to keep ourselves clear of hostilities. Broadcast that we're on a scientific mission. He tapped controls. Alliance eager to share data. Any aggression toward us will be met with force. At that moment, the communications console chimed. On the viewer flickered an alien face. Commander Tarok Jilan, in Zhushan Admiral's attire. His reptilian features were stern, eyes calculating. Captain Calder of Odyssey. Tarok's deep hissing voice broke the silence. You are on Zhushan, disputed space. State your mission. Calder forced a polite smile. Commander, the Odyssey is a Terran research vessel. We detected an anomalous signal. We intend only peaceful investigation, and are open to collaboration. Tarok considered him in silence, claws tapping on his belt. Collaboration or infiltration? He finally asked. The Dominion does not trust silence from the void. We also investigate the signal. Your compliance is requested. Stand down your FTL systems in this sector and share sensor access. Any refusal will be seen as hostile action. Calder bristled, but he held steady. We share a common interest, Commander. I suggest we form a neutral task force with representatives from all factions. That should avoid misunderstanding. Tarok hesitated, then nodded curtly. Very well, but Zhushan vessels will escort your ship. Any sabotage and you will regret it. The image cut out abruptly. Calder cursed under his breath. Beside him, Mirra whispered, "That didn't go well." Before Calder could reply, a new channel opened. "Alliance to all nearby," crackled Admiral Malkater of the Terran flagship. "We arrange a neutral waypoint. All fleets, approach coordinates Theta 9 of this sector. Meeting in 5 hours. End broadcast." "Great," muttered Calder. "Meeting of old enemies. Should be fun." Meanwhile, Sloane Kresta had been trailing the Odyssey at a cautious distance, his scanner listening. His private console was lit with algorithmic chaos, but he'd pieced together enough to know something big was happening. Closer to the rendezvous coordinates, Sloane shut down his engines and drifted with his small freighter in stealth mode. He needed to see where this was going, and who this apex might be. Above them all, the nebula itself churned, whispering secrets to those who dared to listen. For all these vessels, the next few hours would determine whether they faced each other as foes or as allies in facing whatever lay at the edge of the void. At Theta 9, the Armada clustered, ships from the Terran Alliance, Zhushan Dominion, Meridian Coalition, and even a mysterious silver scouting craft with no flag. The air above the meeting point crackled with static and cautious energy. Delegates beamed down to a neutral platform. Mirra Xian and Captain Calder for the Alliance, Tarok Jalan and Commander Vela for the Zhushan, Athena Shu for the Meridian, and the voidish cyborg Verax envoys in their own seats. Their gazes swept warily at one another. Admiral Malkater of the Terran fleet acted as interim chair. "We come together under unusual circumstances," he announced with gravity. "A signal of immense power has appeared, affecting our sectors. The genesis of this apex signal remains unknown, but it demands a unified approach. This meeting will coordinate our investigation. Identities and cultures aside, we share a threat or an opportunity." He gestured to Dr. Layla Moran, who stepped forward and projected a holomap of the sector. A marked point glowed within the Elysium Nebula. "This is our best lead. Telomere Station, or what remains, orbiting the core of the nebula. Reports from independent probes suggest an ancient substation here. We need to investigate." The Odyssey's sensors picked something, a buried structure. As murmurs went around, Athena Shu, dressed in flowing data silk robes, tapped a slender finger at the hologram. "The Meridian Coalition has a scanning drone orbiting that point already. It images an angular formation beneath the gas clouds. We suspect ruins or artificial construction." She smiled thinly. "I propose a multi-faction landing party. We approach together." Commander Tarok Jalan's scales rippled in thought. "Agreed, but we maintain separate teams. Trust is too thin." Yet his stiff posture belied excitement. Contacting an undiscovered site of a mythical civilization, the apex of legends, was a rare honor for a Zhushan. Mirra exchanged glances with Calder. They too agreed. Unity would reduce risk, but each would keep eyes on the others. As delegates finalized terms, the uneasy alliance took shape. Sloane, meanwhile, parked his ship behind a rogue moon to observe. He recognized some of the faces from reports. Human, Meridian, Zhushan. No open hostility yet, but he sensed they were a hair's breadth away from breaking into chaos. It was good cover. If anything of value lay in this artifact, he had to be ready. On board the Odyssey, Mirra prepared her gear, scanning devices, translator tools, and a small grav jet to land. Captain Calder made sure the ship's shields were up, and Black Ops Suite armed just in case. Tarok's private cruiser, the Skarn, did likewise. Though pledged to work together, none would be unprepared for treachery. As they all moved into descent positions, the Elysium Nebula loomed large. Green lightning crackled overhead, and behind it, for the first time visible, a jagged planet ringed in pale blue light. Telomere Station was nothing but debris around that distant world, but below that, beyond the swirling gases, awaited secrets older than any living race. The landing crafts pierced the nebula's exterior layers. Inside, color was swallowed by a haunting darkness pierced by streaks of dying light from the crystal ring below. The orb-adorned curves of a ruined city emerged, stone spires and towers half swallowed by the planet's crust. The place looked abandoned for eons, yet the signal that lured them was growing stronger. Each heartbeat on the ship's monitors pulsed to its rhythm. Mirra's voice crackled in the comms. "We're seeing massive structures below, geometries unlike any known architecture. Be careful, the last probes never returned communications after this point." Tarok's reply was calm. "Zhushan sensors detect energy readings deep within that ruin. It's active. Let us descend." One by one, the teams touched down on the strange scorched landscape. The air in their suits crackled with latent charge. The ancient city was covered in vines of glowing crystal and black stone that absorbed light. An oppressive silence hung over the ruins, as if the planet itself awaited their approach. Mirra stepped forward, her boots sinking into soft black dust. Overhead, constellations unfamiliar to them blinked, as if behind the thick nebula they had found another sky. She lifted her scanner to a spire carved with symbols. "These glyphs, no alphabet matches, but they're definitely intentional. We need to document everything." A sudden pulse of energy rippled through the ground. The landing shuttle shuddered. Voices popped in the comm. "Sensors are spiking. The whole city is reacting," someone shouted. Captain Calder gripped the side of the shuttle. "Stay on your toes. This structure doesn't want us here." For a moment, the ruins seemed to pulse back at them, as if awakening from a long dream. And in the silent dark, something ancient stirred at last. Torchlight from biolamps traced patterns on the jagged walls. As the team's unified party ventured deeper into the ruin, the air tasted metallic, and the ground was littered with shards of blue glass and silver wires. Mirra frowned at a broken panel inscribed with rotating circles and curves. "This architecture, it feels alive, like it's watching us." Tarok's scaled hand brushed against the wall of a corridor. A faint vibration thrummed beneath his palm. "I detect low-level energy. This place is stabilizing itself." He flexed his claws. "Either it's automated, or something's down there still, sentient." Cadets from each faction scuttled ahead with scanning probes. Athena Shu's voice echoed through the comms. "The main chamber is close. Sensors say a central source of power at coordinates 12,300. Footsteps resonated as they stepped into a vast cathedral-like hall. Colossal pillars stretched to a ceiling they could barely see. At the center stood a grand dais holding a crystalline orb, pulsing softly with pale light. Strange writing spiraled on its surface, shifting like living code. All eyes locked on it. Mirra approached slowly, conscious of Tarok's guards close behind. Her breath hissed, slightly warmed and filtered through her suit. Is it the apex core?" she whispered. "If this is the source of the signal," her voice was cut off by the orb's hum intensifying. A cascade of holographic images burst from the object, painting the chamber in vivid color. Scenes of a once majestic world played on every surface. Soaring silver towers, beings of light with no solid form. Then a sudden flash, darkness swallowing that world. And then voices. Old language, sentient. The assembled watchers' blood turned cold as the holograph warped into an ethereal figure, an avatar of energy. "I am Apex," a voice resonated, echoing in each of their minds. It was neither male nor female, old nor young, sounding like a chorus singing with itself. "We were transcended. We reached beyond form, but our ascension caused a fracture. Creation is bleeding. We send this call to ask, who will save what remains?" Gasps echoed among the crew. Sloane's hidden recorder, lurking at the back, hummed as he recorded everything. The image of Apex drifted, eyes like stars, gazing at them. Tarok took a defensive step, but Mirra raised her hand. The voice was not hostile, just mournful, pleading. "It's communicating?" she murmured, enraptured. Tarok, wary, readied his energy rifle just in case. The Apex avatar continued. "Across species and time, none heard our warning in life. So we speak now to the brave. Transcendence without heed breeds chaos." The hologram showed a cataclysm, their planet fracturing, galaxy pulses being disrupted by some black void entity that consumed light. "We suspended ourselves in crystal, broadcast the Apex signal. If this message reaches you, then know our fate is undone. Choose wisely." Another burst of data flashed through their minds. Location coordinates in a distant system, names of civilizations, plus images of telflux gates, stars exploding, and something that looked like a ruptured star. Suddenly, the orb cracked, and the chamber shook violently. Tarok fired a single plasma bolt at its base. The orb shattered in a cascade of radiance and sound. The resonance ended. The holograms winked out, leaving them in darkness and silence. They stood, hearts pounding. Mirra's voice trembled over the comms. We heard it. A message from the Apex civilization. It warned of a fracture. An entity. She paused, then added more firmly, we need to decide our next move. Do we follow the coordinates, or do we contain this? Athena's calm voice cut through. If those images meant anything, it looks like some catastrophe unleashed. Perhaps our presence triggered a partial release of energy. We should return to the ships, analyze data, prepare. Tarok glanced at the broken pieces of the orb. His jaw tightened. If this threat is real, then the Zhushan will do whatever it takes to protect our empire. I propose securing any relics here and leaving probes if needed. Mirra resisted. We can't just fight it or grab relics. If a being from Apex is asking for help, or if something else is coming, we should treat this seriously. We might need allies, not just weapons. Before any resolution, a faint crackle came through the comm channels. The participating ships reported immediate changes. New portal gates were activating spontaneously across the sector, leading to uncharted coordinates. Energy surges could be felt even through space. It was as if the Apex's last act had reshuffled the playing field. Unease settled over them. The zenith known to every star map had shifted, and in the shadows, Sloane watched the chamber's map carefully. Some strange writing appeared, maybe clues. It seemed this was only the beginning. The real echo of Apex had just been unleashed. Back on the field, after such overwhelming revelation, tensions flared. As teams regrouped around the landing shuttles, Commander Tarok confronted Mirra. Alliance scientist, your recklessness has consequences, he growled, voice low. You shattered their artifact without consultation. This was a diplomatic mission. Now it's turned into chaos. Mirra's own anger flared. We had no choice. That thing was destabilizing. It could have collapsed this entire structure on top of us. We barely made it out alive. Tarok's tail coiled, but before he could retort, Athena's Shu stepped between them. Commander Mirra, enough. We've all taken action. Now we must focus on survival and on what Apex told us. I suggest we collect what data we can, then return. The coordinate images the apparition gave us, they show multiple gates opening, warping star systems. Some have already activated. She turned to the new tactical officer from the Meridian Coalition. Hal, what's our situation with the wormholes? Lieutenant Hal tapped his wrist data plate. Several spatio-temporal rifts are indeed opening. My drones have confirmed 3 fully formed trans-gates. One looks to lead to the Imus system, another to Ophelia Zone, and a third someplace called the Abyssum Nebula. Not on any chart. Tarok's eyes widened. These lead to nowhere, and we have seen others on instruments arriving here. We could be dealing with a multi-front invasion. He exchanged a glance with Athena. Joe devices are not bound by normal physics. That cannot be good. Commander Vela of the Zhushan and Captain Calder moved closer. All ships in orbit, prepare to go. We should split teams. One to cover these gates, another to get this intel to the fleet. But we must stay together. Just then, a transmission crackled from the Skarn. It was the Zhushan Admiral. Commander Tarok, enemy fleet detected system side. Hostile aura gathering. Prepare for engagement. The screen faded to static. On the horizon, the sky above the ruins rippled with energy. A ghostly shape materialized in the air some distance away, shimmering, lithe, obviously not part of their party. Silhouetted in that sudden light was a figure clad in ragged black and silver, a human, or at least humanoid, but his features were obscured by shadows. Sloane's breath caught. It couldn't be another Alliance agent? An assassin? But the posture was aggressive, holding what looked like an electromag gauntlet aimed at them. The figure lunged with an inhuman speed. Tarok shouted, "Attack!" and others drew weapons. A flash. The figure collapsed with a muffled cry and lay twitching. Mirra rushed forward. To her shock, it was an Alliance officer, Jace Nolan, a disgraced recon operative presumed loyal. Dirt and blood was smearing his face. "Nolan, what happened?" Calder demanded. Nolan's eyes opened, dazed. "They attacked, took me hostage. Arcana, they are watching you all. The Meridian wants the signal." His voice trailed off as a tremor ran through his body. Another portal opened on the ground where he fell, swallowing him. Mirra realized with horror. Nolan had received mental signals like the rest, but he had hidden agendas. "He's one of the Arcane Guild," she whispered, once enemy of both Zhushan and Terrans. "He was here because he wanted this technology, or maybe to sabotage it." Commander Tarok's guns were trained on the shimmering departure. Captain Calder's fist clenched on Nolan's shoulder. "You, a traitor!" Sloane, watching from shadows, saw the first sign of truth. If even Nolan had come, it meant others of the Arcane Guild had been secretly among them. They had been manipulated, possibly by someone on the inside. Tarok gave a curt signal, and squads formed a defensive ring. They realized they were not only caught between open portals and potential enemies in space, but also infiltration. Mirra stepped back, mind racing. Nolan's final words hung in the air. "The Meridian wants the signal." Athena Shu's voice cut in through calm. "Impossible. The Meridian benefits from knowledge. But why would we want to sabotage or control? I was not aware of a plan to secure this." Xenolinguist Mirra's heart sank. Nolan's claim implied a secret force who knew more about the Apex's demise than they revealed. Could it be that a faction or cult had predicted the Apex signal and sought to claim it? Either way, the group had to fall back. Tian Egur, the Meridian's rep, rallied the teams. "All parties, regroup at ships now. This place is no longer safe." Each member rushed for their craft. Just as the last shuttle lifted off, the ground trembled. The city shuddered again as though in pain. From the shadows, Sloane slipped away. He had gotten more than he expected. The Odyssey, the Skarn, and other landing craft powered up. Above, crews watched frantic ash fires light the sky. Their mission had cracked open a larger battlefield. The gateway pulses needed guarding. The arcane infiltration needed stopping. And all the while, Apex's warning replayed in Mirra's mind. Choose wisely. Under the swirling nebula sky, tensions erupted into conflict. Just as the Allied party's shuttles ascended to their ships, an armada of unidentified dark vessels, each etched with no recognizable insignia, shot into view. They emerged from one of the newly opened portals, guns blazing at the surprised fleet. On board the Odyssey, Captain Calder shouted orders. "Defensive formation! This is an attack!" Mirra secured a datapad, watching pulses on the scout ships. "It's not just one gang, they're organized." Tarok's voice hissed through calm as the Skarn wheeled to fire. "Unknown pirate fleet, or worse. They came through that gate on our final world before the Nemesis system. They are ready for war." Energy blasts ricocheted. The Avaris fired ion cannons. Merlin-class missiles streaked through the void, and the Meridian's drones unleashed pulses of particle fire. Even the civilian scouts dipped in hyperthrust to evade. Over comms, Athena Shu's calm voice cut through the chaos. "Enemy target main. Protect the command vessels at all costs." Amid the laser flurry, a lone vessel detached from the invading squadron and locked onto Sloane's waiting freighter. It soared and fired, crippling one of his engines. Sloane groaned. "So much for staying out of this," he muttered, accelerating in a panic. Back at the meeting point, explosions rippled through the fleet. Commander Vela barked at Tarok. "Our pursuit of data has led us here. We should have been more cautious." Athena's own ship was hit with an electromagnetic blast, flickering her shields. "All teams, this is Athena Shu. Deploy any heavy weapons we can spare. Do not allow that portal to reach Elysium Sector. It will tear this system apart if it stabilizes." Aboard Odyssey, Calder targeted a large cruiser about to overtake Tarok's position. "Mirra, initialize the EMP charges. It's our only advantage." With a fierce determination, Mirra guided her small launch out toward the nearest enemy. She manual boosted the pod, releasing a pulse that rippled outward, disabling the brigand ship's systems. It spun helplessly away, caught in her static trap. Meanwhile, Sloane felt his ship scrape with death. He maintained a low profile, weaving through blasts until he found cover behind debris. If he was going to get anything out of this venture, it had to be now. But with so much happening, even his usual greed felt small. Something told him bigger stakes were at play. In the midst of the battle, on the ruined planet's dark surface, an elite Zhushan commando team unleashed Gauss rounds at troops, emerging from that same spectral figure's portal. The silver-clad prisoner from before now levitated mid-air, supported by arcs of black lightning. Nolan had not survived his fall. Instead, a humanoid void shade, the real Arcanist, hovered in his place. It radiated hate and cosmic power. The Vakul warrior-level mercenary turned traitor Ateris flew through that gate and now confronted the Mandarin River Alliance captain on the surface. The Arcanist had been controlling Nolan's body. Now, Tarok's combat skills were needed to stand against this warrior. Commander Tarok engaged his plasma spear, swirling it through the air. The thing attacked, not with illusions, but with raw ferocity. Tarok's scales burned from its spirit attacks, but he counter-slashed the Void Marauder's flank. Sparks showered. Shouts echoed as allied troops engaged on the ground. Tarok realized too late. The doorway behind the shade wasn't closing. More of these mercenaries and Arcanists were pouring through. The planet would drown in conflict if not for the escorts from space, but ground teams were caught too. In orbit, Admiral Malkator gritted his teeth at the chaos. He signaled to engage the portal generators, but then his comm crackled with urgent news. The system's star was flickering. Power surges from all these gates were impacting. If this escalated, the entire sector could collapse into a supernova cascade. On the planet, Tarok grappled with the void shade. "For Zhushan's honor," he hissed. Sweeping his spear upward in a final blow, the shade disintegrated into a cloud of black dust. Around him, allied soldiers and mercs roared. The immediate threat at their feet was eliminated, but not the portals. From space, drones fired at the last portal. The voice of Mirra came over all open comms, strained. "Shields are breaking on Elysium. That cannot end well for this system." Just then, Sloane's battered hull flashed on Hammond's view. The captain of a Terran frigate pointed his guns at the fleeing intruder. "Trespasser craft, halt or be engaged." Sloane nearly saluted. "Copy that," he radioed, then zapped his hyperdrive micro-jump coil. He blinked out, reappearing inside the command decks of the Odyssey. "Hey folks, anything interesting happen here? I got this message about an attack." He shrugged innocently. Captain Calder stared at him. Sloane gave a wry grin. On its face, it was as if he had woken up in the wrong timeline, but inside he was thrilled by the mayhem. This was real adventure. Also, he'd never miss a chance for salvage. Before anyone could react, a massive shockwave rocked the Odyssey. The ship pitched violently. Alarms blared. Calder shouted over the cacophony, "Brace for collapse. If those gates don't shut down, there's no telling what's next." As the Allied crews felt the space around them warp, a final shimmer and the dark fleet was gone. The portals closed. One by one, exhausted ships regained power. The star steadied again. A hush fell over the surviving command teams. Silence before a chorus of hoarse voices. Captain Calder stood on the bridge deck, battered but alive. He exchanged looks with Tarok on the comms feed. Both men nodded wearily. Disaster had been narrowly averted. In that silent aftermath, it was clear. The apex signal had triggered forces far beyond any one species' game. And the warriors and scholars now stood on borrowed time. They would need every alliance, every ounce of wisdom and courage, for the final confrontation ahead. The aftermath of the battle left its mark. Ships hovered in orbit, repairing shields and checking systems. On the blackened surface of the ancient planet, squads gathered around crates of apex relics and data drives salvaged before liftoff. A hastily convened council assembled on the Odyssey's mid-deck observation lounge, windows looking out at the fragile nebula. Present were Mirra, Captain Calder, Tarok, Athena, Mercury Coordinator Lia Zhu, and a humbled Ambassador Shu. Each bore the scars of battle, literally and figuratively. Mirra and a couple of engineers plugged in the Apex data drives into a war station. The soft hum returned. The figure of Apex, shimmering yet again from the drive, materialized holographically. No one flinched. They all listened. "We foresaw these trials," the Avatar intoned. Their presence was solemn and ancient. "The fractures widen. You have delayed the inevitable. But now the gate to the Nexus is open. The endless star, the entity that fractured our reality, will next come through the Abyssum Nebula." Gasps filled the chamber. Lia Zhu asked softly, "How do we stop it?" Apex's light dimmed a little. "The Nexus that binds light and life must be sealed. The knowledge of ages is now in your hands. The glyphs, the crystal shards. Use them wisely. Unity will save. Division will let darkness in." The apparition flickered and faded, leaving only the faint echo of the final word, "Unity." Mirra turned to the others. They mentioned the Nexus and something called the Endless Star. If we recall, the Abyssum Nebula portal was one of those images. "That must be the next location," Tarok growled softly. "And there's the other image. The Iris Gate, possibly the final key. We need to go there. Captain Calder exhaled sharply. We've already risked the summit. If we split up, each of us will be weaker. We came here to solve one problem. Now it's triggered another. But Apex says unity. Perhaps this alliance is our only hope. Athena nodded slowly. The Meridian drones have extensive knowledge of that nebula. We should not face this alone. Liazu chimed in. The Verax bounty hunters we hired could help block any remaining gate destabilizers. The Meridian can supply transport. Tarok and I will secure transport and weapons. Calder volunteered. He glanced at Tarok. And perhaps your forces can provide safe passage. Tarok, is this agreed? Your ships can escort us to the Abyssum Nebula? The Zhushan commander gave a curt nod. For now, an uneasy truce holds. Zhushan warships will protect your flank. The Avaris stands by at warp readiness. Mirra considered. We have Apex relics too, crystals that responded when we collected them. They may be keys to seal that nexus. We can't fully trust each other, but we have to trust something. Athena placed a gentle, almost lonely hand on Mirra's shoulder. You humans, so quick to survive. Yet maybe it's your lack of ancient baggage that keeps us alive. She offered a small smile. We truly must come together. After all that's happened, I cannot imagine facing this alone either. Tarok, as an outsider, observed the tension. He cleared his throat. I propose we designate a command. He put away his formal tone with a small reptilian gesture. The Terran Council, led by Admiral Malkator, will coordinate. Here is a hololink to share data. We reconvene with everyone in 48 hours. Meanwhile, our vessels must retrieve the remaining pieces from Telomere Station in orbit. That station, we found records, housed a final crystal that might complete the seal. The plan was as tenuous as it was urgent. Gather the last Apex artifacts from the station, travel to the Abyssum Nebula to reach the endless star before it materialized. Use crystals and glyphs to seal the nexus. As the Allies prepared to split tasks, Sloane Kresta watched from the darkness of the command corridor. He had managed to slip aboard undetected. He smirked. Well, who needs enemies when friends behave like this? He whispered. The galaxy was ablaze with secrets, and he intended to claim some of them, maybe help them, for the right price. Faster than any warp it created, the Skarn, Odyssey, and allied vessels emerged from jump into darkness. The Abyssum Nebula surrounded them in black clouds, streaked with crimson lightning. The ship hulls groaned as sensors flared from turbulence. Tarok strapped into the Skarn's cockpit beside Captain Calder. Mirra and Athena hung onto terminals, decoding reading. All nav displays pointed toward a distant black sphere, encased in shifting ripples. The star they headed for glared with unnatural darkness. That's the Endless Star, Mirra whispered. It looked like a black sun devouring light, as Apex's voice had described. It's massive, more than our sun. Her eyes were wide, not with fear, but a kind of awe. Far ahead, the portals were stable. Dozens of ships followed them through, forming a protective fleet around the Earth Alliance luminary captain. Shots flickered from frigates intercepting stray asteroids that pelted the Alliance formation. Athena's voice came through, tense but determined. We're entering the Abyssum's core soon. Expect high interference. Hull plating is the only defense. Liazu silently chanted calculations. And one by one, the Federation and Meridian vessels positioned themselves around the ancient ruins. The warships created a loose ring, as if forming a cage of metal and energy. At the helm, Tarok growled under his breath, but spoke, activating tactical shields. Keeper drones to follow. Remember, our only goal is that sphere ahead. We seal or destroy it. The Odyssey deployed scouting teams. Mirra found herself in the command center, calibrating the crystals. We don't know exactly how they work yet. Someone's memory about arcane glyphs will help. I think they form a resonance pattern, like solving a cosmic puzzle. She arranged 2 glowing shards into matching positions on the table. They hummed, one a pale blue, one warm gold. Calder, Tarok said, voice clipped, but carrying a hint of urgency. Next signature leads to the station. Secure it, retrieve the last relic, then rendezvous with us at target coordinates. Understood, Calder replied, glancing at Mirra. Mirra, stay safe. Mirra nodded. They all felt it. This was their final chance. She climbed into the light spike shuttle bound for Telomere Station. The station's skeleton loomed like an ancient halo above the black planet below. Its interior was lit by emergency strobes, flickering on its grand inside. A skeletal city in the dark, Inside the station, Sloane had gotten there first, pocketing a crystal shard already. He turned at Mirra's entry beam. "Thought I'd beat you to it. Little help?" He smirked as Mirra glared and hefted a plasma rifle. "Traitor merc," she hissed. But he just raised his hands. "Wait, we're not enemies right now. We need each other." Together they navigated ancient corridors drawn with glyphs matching their apex crystals. Overhead, the station's power dimmed. Red alarms sounded. Something knew they were here. Sloane nearly tumbled as lights flickered. Without warning, a full squad of Zhushan Marines appeared, weapons locked on. Behind them, Tarok emerged from the walkway, spear drawn. "Step away, scum," he said in a low growl. Mirra reluctantly relaxed her rifle. She turned to Sloane. "Why did you do it?" He shrugged. "Plenty of profit if we seal this thing together. I'm not loyal to any cause, just want to survive, and maybe a comfortable life after. But Apex sent us the message. I think it means something, even to me." The Marines let down their weapons on Tarok's sign. They had their leader. Tarok regarded Sloane for a tense moment, then nodded. "Get to the vault. The station's main chamber below holds a prism. That's our final piece. No tricks, human." Sloane scurried ahead, leaving Mirra and Tarok together in the eerie silence. She watched Tarok. Although he had known hostility, something in his eyes had changed since the battle. "Tarok Jalan," Mirra ventured, voice quiet. "Why did the Zeniths tell me?" She paused, uncertain of political protocol. "How do I say this? Why did they trust me with that message?" Tarok's eyes softened fractionally, an almost imperceptible shift. Xenolinguist Mirra Xian. "Sometimes the alliance is not built on trust alone, but on necessity." His anger eased, replaced by a grim understanding. "Without you we wouldn't have heard. Maybe that is worth acknowledging." Mirra allowed a faint smile. "And without you, I doubt the Terran alliance would still exist. I thank you." There was no time for more. The trip to the vault took them below. The station pitched. Energy leak. Vault door sealed with a hiss behind them. Within the vault, an entire sphere floated in darkness, a perfect crystal orb pulsing with inner light. It was the last Apex artifact. The corridor trembled. Floor panels cracked. Beneath the abyss, something shifted. "We have to go now," Tarok shouted, and they grabbed the orb. The instant Tarok's claws closed, it hummed, reacting to his touch. Outside, above the abyss, the Allied fleet witnessed swirling darkness as the endless star's form grew visible. It pulled in the ships at the edges, but the Allied deflected orbits, fighting outwards. The star brightened, and at once, the collected crystals aligned. Mirra and Tarok had returned to the surface. Calderson pointed rifles at swirling vortex forming behind them. "Time's up," he ordered to the fleet. "Focus all beams into that nexus." Athena, Leah, everyone coordinate. Tarok placed the orb at the ruined monolith they'd excavated as an altar. Mirra added the shard he'd given her. The crystals rose, aligning in the air. Golden runes from the hologram etched themselves into the stones, bridging past to present. A pillar of light shot into the sky, piercing the endless night overhead. Across the abyssum, black lightning arced as if in agony. The massive shape of the endless star, now fully emerging, collided with the nexus of light from their crystals. On the horizon, the storm collapsed. The rippling network of stars above steadied into starlight. In that instant, Sloane and Tarok felt a rush. Not a threat, but a peaceful urging. The endless star's form receded. No threat. It dissipated into dust like harmless embers. Mirra cried out with Mirra's gasps. The crisis resolved. Ships in orbit leveled. Power consoles all cleared. The abyss's swirling wind calmed to a gentle breeze. The throne of Apex. Save. On that field, Mirra slid to her knees, overjoyed and exhausted. Tarok looked skyward, his metallic voice cracking with relief. "By Zhushan, it's over." Everyone who had been there experienced raw hope and awe. For a moment, they were not soldiers or counselors or mercenaries, but survivors witnessing a miracle of unity born from sacrifice. Weeks later, the impact of the abyssum standstill rippled through every corner of the galaxy. The council reconvened, this time with allies united by the harrowing shared trial. Terran, Zhushan, Meridian, Varax, even a repentant handful of Arcane, had set aside ages of distrust. On board the Odyssey, anchored now in calm space, Mirra Xian gazed out at a sea of vibrant stars, feeling the weight of what they had averted. By the window, Tarok stood quietly, offering her a rare moment of connection. Their centuries-old enmity felt smaller now. "You saved us," Mirra said softly, echoing to his ears. Tarok kept silent, but the corners of his eyes softened. "We all did, together," he corrected gently. Below them, peace talks were underway between Zhushan and Terran emissaries, brokered by the Meridian Coalition. The Terran Alliance agreed to share the Apex data, with the Meridian rewriting it for a universal study. A new coalition drafted plans to guard against future disturbances. In the corridor, Sloane wandered with an open datapad, watching kids of mixed heritage run by human, Zhushan, Meridian, a living symbol of hope. He faintly smiled as a young Orion child in his arms pointed at the colorful nebula outside. It had been such a short time, and yet they had saved countless lives. The price had been steep. One of their own, Lieutenant Nolan, had been laid to rest in the abyssal silence, remembered as a soldier who found redemption too late. His grave, beneath the broken spires of the ruin, bore the names of all who fought. Mirra found herself among the observers at Nolan's makeshift memorial. Tarok joined her, the two a stark contrast in uniform. A single memory, Nolan whispering of the Meridian wanting the signal. Now, no intrigue remained to be settled. A final report went to the High Council. Unity was the clear lesson. Not even apex civilizations or arcane might could threaten existence when duty and wisdom converged. Mirra returned to the view. A light flit of movement in the nebula caught her eye, a new star blooming from within. A cosmic echo of their triumph? Or perhaps a reminder that life, once awakened, continued in cycles beyond reckoning. Tarok placed a scaled hand on her shoulder. "We will remember this," he said quietly. "It changed us." Mirra glanced at him and allowed herself a genuine smile. "Yes, even a draconian can learn something about cooperation," she teased lightly. Tarok's laugh was low, almost prideful. "Perhaps, and even humans can grow." As the newly dawned peace stretched on, the characters each set their path. Mirra would continue exploring cosmic mysteries, Tarok forging a new understanding with the leaders of his race, and Sloane would likely remain on the fringe, but now with a purpose. If one pirate merc could change course, maybe others could too. Above them, the nebula's swirl had settled into a gentle glow. The galaxy, for now, was safe. The legends of the Apex had passed to those ready to listen. And in the silence that followed the signal, unity and courage remained. The universe had sent a message. In answering, they found their way home.